Putting you on the spot, Stallion. What makes a good investment? How do you know if you should put money into something? Just give me like what your box is.
Mine?
Yeah.
Okay. You're taking away, you're taking like our next month's topic in the passive income mastermind. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. But for me, it has to meet a couple criteria. Number one, almost immediate cash flow, right? The only thing that's been outside of that has been things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, because I believe that's building a future place for additional currency that's more stable than our U.S. dollar.
Okay, do you say that even though with like our land flipping business, we don't take the cash flow? We have cash flow, but we don't take it.
I like the fact that it's being created and I get the choice to continue to reinvest or not.
But how do you know ultimately if it's a good investment? How do you know it's worthwhile? Like, what is your measurement or criteria that you use?
That the investment is worthwhile?
Yeah, like is there a return number that you're looking for? Obviously, you want cash flow back immediately. You're not looking for appreciation, but how like what measurement are you saying? It needs to be 10% cash on cash, 20%, 50%. Do you have a number?
It keeps going up. I'll say that. The more. So my very first thing was doing like private mortgages, and that was a 10%, mortgage. And I thought, man, that's so good. And the more we started learning about all these other things, I was like, man, I need to get my money back on those private mortgages and start doing some cooler things. I mean, like you think about the short-term rental space for us. I don't even remember what the math is, but it's stupid. When you start getting $800 per bedroom per month in cash flow, it's somewhere in the, I want to say 60% range, cash on cash. Is that fair? Am I making that up?
I think that's what it is when we're getting $800 a bedroom. By the way, for the month of February, we didn't get $800 a bedroom.
Okay. But on average, we're between 5 and 800. I would say that.
Yeah.
That to me is the new like measuring stick in my head. It's like, I know that business now because we've invested so much time and energy into learning it and proving it out. So if I can't get, within reason, close to that number, it's kind of like, why would I veer off of something that we know well? So I think knowledge is super important. And I like to look at the risks associated with it. Are there market risks? Is there volatility? Is there government intervention? Like to me, that's a critical thing for me right now.
Well, the reason I asked you that question is I'm getting ready to have this conversation over the next several days with my oldest daughter, who's a junior in high school, is thinking about going to college. And I want to sit down with her and talk about what is a good investment? What should you be looking for in a return? And I'm going to then apply it to school, right? Because going to college, there's an investment. There's an investment not only of money, but there's an investment of years.
Yes.
4 years, right? That's the quick pace group. That I wasn't a part of that group. I was part of the 5-year tour. But for the quick pace group, 4 years of time plus the amount of money to go, plus the amount of money for everything else that gets involved in that. And so I want to then go and look at this and say, okay, what's the return? I don't want to offend anybody. So if you got a degree that you're not using, join the crowd, right? Like everybody else, for the most part, is working in a field that they didn't go to college for. And this is where my opinion comes from. But I was sitting behind this couple, or actually sitting in front of them, flying back from Colorado. It was actually a 19-year-old talking to a professor, and she was actually a student at the same college he was a professor at. They didn't know that, but they start talking, and they're right in the back of my ear, so I can't not hear them. And I know the school that she goes to is like a $35,000 to $40,000 a year tuition. And that's for in-state, and she was from Missouri.
So she's out of state.
She's out of state. So it's more than that. And the professor asked her, what is your degree? And you would think, okay, you're going to go to a school, spend 40 grand a year or better per year. That's a heck of an investment. What sort of degree do you want to get coming out of there? Do you want to be an attorney? Do you want to be like a dermatologist, right? Like, are you going to be some high valued engineer. Like, give me something that's going to come out making minimum 100,000. You better be getting more than that. You know what her degree was in?
Not a clue.
English. She's an English major at a $40,000 a year school. Like, that is a bad investment. If Joey, I said, you're going to invest $160,000 into something, and it's going to take a long time just to get access to your money. It's going to take minimum 4 years to get access to your money. And then when it comes trickling in, it's going to trickle in at, say, like 10 to 20 grand a year. Because when you take into account all the lifestyle expenses she's going to have, what's left over? That's what I'm talking about. What's the return on that? It's poor. It's poor to earmuffs, piss poor. and that's what I think is important about today's podcast, is that we're talking about investments, talking about passive income. And I think we need to think in light of that. What is our buy box for investing our money? And I want to have a conversation with my daughter who's investing her time and her money, because, to be honest, all this money that we've been saving up in her insurance contracts for her infinite banking, that's hers, man. That's hers to use to do the things that can create a lifestyle that she wants or a lifestyle that she doesn't, which is having to work. Because if she spends it all on college and then is working the rest of her life because she can't live a lifestyle that she wants because her job that she chooses doesn't perform, that's on her. And so I'm going to spend the next 18 months with her focused on how do we create an investment of what we want. I hope that this podcast inspires you to think about, are you making choices on an investment basis that's going to get you closer to what you want? I hope that you always enjoy these passive income reports as much as Joey and I do. Let's jump in right now, Joey.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
All right, Russ, we are live, my friend. It's another month.
Well, this month we're preparing for something that's happened in May, though, man. Like, you and I usually don't plan ahead, but we've got a pretty big event coming up, Joe.
That's right. Yeah. The second part of the second event of our passive income mastermind will be in Austin, Texas this year. And the first one was so electric. I mean, that's the word that I'm using to describe it, is because people walked out of there just like amped up. They knew that there was people in the room that just raised their lid in areas that maybe they were an expert in one, but they got exposure and then they were brought up a whole nother level. I mean, what would you say differently than that?
Electric, boogie, woogie, woogie. Come on. Exactly. I was thinking, like, I have never heard you use that a word. That is not a word that I feel like sits in your vocabulary very often.
It's legit, though. It is legit.
Well, yeah, the passive income retreat is something that we put together after prodding by many, many, many people, right? It's kind of one of those things where it's the labor of love. It's something that you and I didn't need to put together, but we've been asked to share a bunch of the ideas that we've had. And since doing it, it's actually become one of my favorite things, because I love being around other people who are super excited about getting involved in different investment opportunities. And passive income is one of those things that there's so many different avenues to do it. And sometimes we get very pigeonholed in the opportunities that exist based upon our own experience or those in which we surround ourselves with, right? Jim Rohn says you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Well, to me, like, getting in an environment where there's 30, 40, 50 other people who are doing all sort of different things, it really gives you an idea to expand your thought process. Not that you need to do everything, which sometimes I feel like, I can get caught up in wanting to chase every opportunity that exists. But being in an environment like this definitely challenges my thinking to say, maybe there's something that we haven't considered, Joey.
That's right. And I want to say this about the retreat. Like every detail of this is put together in a way to enhance your experience. Like from the venue that we choose, we want there to be a place for people to stay on site, but not to feel like a stuffy conference, right? This is an intimate get to know people at a Udemy level. And the place that we choose, the place in Franklin, now the place in Austin, is very accommodating to that. Secondly, when you attend this event, you're not getting just bombarded with 17 speakers in 8 hours, which is easy to do. We chose 3 speakers, main speakers, and left a ton of space in between that is purposeful networking, because the value of knowing the people in the group is way more important than just information, right?
What I mean, isn't that the whole thing of a mastermind? It's
Exactly.
masters at something, right? Sharing what's in their mind with each other. They're masterminding. And I agree with you. I've been to events where it was really like, okay, we're going to meet together over 8 hours. So we're going to run 10 different speakers through. They all have 40 minutes, and the MC it's like they're standing on coals every time they're up there trying to get people as fast as they can to the stage and off. And I think that what ends up happening is people walk away with a lot of information, but information doesn't necessarily create action.
That's
right. It is the conversations that you have typically at events that are the most valuable. And so we wanted the information at events to lead to those conversations at the events so that you walk away. Right. So a couple of things for this event, Joe. I want to talk about some of the people here, because really this is what it's about, right? We've got one of the top, if not the top, crypto mining guy in the U.S., and I'm closely starting to become probably in the world at this event. Bob Burnett, we've actually had him on the show before. We've talked crypto with him. He has over $200 million in crypto projects going on right now in the U.S., but that's like second on his list behind being an author for Bitcoin Magazine. He is actually the man that is behind helping the country of El Salvador turn their currency to Bitcoin. Like that is like, I mean, it's
no big deal. No big deal.
Yeah, if you want to hear from someone who understands the space, if you've ever wondered why Joey and I are in the crypto mining space, it's because of Bob. Bob's our guy. Right. We've known Bob now for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. We've personally been implementing a lot of stuff. So having him come and share some of the insights he has is huge. Who else do we have coming?
Well, obviously we have Mark Podolsky, the #1 land flipper in the country. We have his picture's not on here yet, but we have the #1 owner financing guru in the country that will be on a panel later on in the second night.
Well, when you say that's Mitch Stephen. We had Mitch Stephen on our show. Mitch has bought a house like every 3 to 4 days for the last 20 years. Yeah, you heard me say that right. And here's how Mitch does it. He literally has borrowed like $20 million from people, pays them 8%, turns around, buys a property with cash, flips it to someone who comes in, owner finances it from him at 10%. So he's making the difference between 8 and 10. And they must give him at a minimum 10% down. In most situations, that's $12,000 to $20,000. He puts that in his pocket, and then he's got $20 million earning, in essence, 2% spread for him. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's on this panel, Joey. Like, to me, like, to be able to have that sort of insight is crazy.
That's right. We have our business mentor, Sharon Srivatsa, who's had multiple exits over the last 5 years, one of which in the $1 billion range, $3.4 billion. So his strategies on business structuring and exits is unfounded. Like there's nobody that even comes close, in my opinion. We have 3 basic tenets of this, which includes passive income, infrastructure, and it also covers tax strategies, right? Because all those things play together to get you to 200% of your monthly expenses in passive income. So we have Todd Martis with CPS going to be covering high-level tax strategies that you can implement. Seth Bradley, the passive income attorney, going to be talking about partnerships and building out syndication models and how you can use other people's money to grow your own portfolio. And of course, you've had him on the show, Dave Zook, the master, the real asset investor, talking about some of his top behind the scenes passive income strategies that he uses and he has offering for us. So there's so many more people we could talk about, Russ, that are going to be there in person. But this is the collective mindset that is going to be there in the room. And we want to make sure you know how to get there. So if you are interested, if this is something that will help you get to your 200% goal, you need to email us at info@wealthwithoutwallstreet.com and just put in the subject line passive income retreat. When you do that, we will shoot you back the details, links to attend, and also there's an application process, but in order to get in there. So we want to invite you to take that action.
Well, disclaimer: this is obviously just for accredited investors. There's many of you that are working your way to that process and not a fit yet. That's okay. We're doing these once in the spring, once in the fall. So hopefully by the next opportunity that comes around, you'll have met that criteria. But if you fit that, if you're an accredited investor, you don't feel like you have either the people around you supporting you, helping you get to that 200% level where your expenses are exceeded by passive income by 200%, this may be a retreat that you want to be a part of. Joey, I really love the fact that you've highlighted this to start off with, but let's talk about our passive income that we had for the month of February, because that's really what this specific episode's about. It's about just being open, sharing what we're doing. And we've had some ups and downs. So obviously, every winter, it seems like we have some down months as it pertains to our short-term rental business. Our Wake Up in Birmingham, which is, for those who don't know what short-term rental is, that's our Airbnb, that's our VRBO, that's the business where we rent out to people either on one night all the way up to 30 nights. And the winter months tend to be a little bit lower, Joey. Why are the winter months lower?
Well, they're a little colder, and I just noticed that our revenue gets a little colder in the colder months, and then it warms up, which is the good news. Now, what's a cool thing that happened in February, though, that I think will make it a little bit warmer this time next year?
Well, one of the things that happened is we've been following, again, you have the information, you gain information, you start applying it, and then you test it to see what else is working. And one of the things that we learned, Joey, through this month of February is that there was some new pricing software out there that we've been kind of looking into for several months. We finally pulled the trigger on it. We decided toward the end of the month to spend, it's not cheap, it's over $200 a month to be able to purchase it. And if you're in our short-term rental course, we're going to be making an update to that so that way you get access to that new information that we had. But we purchased this new pricing software, and immediately, right at the very end of the month, we didn't get a chance to really apply it to February. But what we saw is that we started booking out March, April, May, June through this new pricing software, immediately enhancing all the revenues for those future months. I think that's what you're speaking to, Joey, is that we're seeing that we have new information, some new software that's going to help us increase, I think, our revenue by as much as 15 to 20%.
Exactly. Yeah, I get really excited about that. You weren't on this update with Clint recently, but as of the first few days of March, we had already exceeded all of what we had gained in revenue in February.
Yeah, we had more on the books for March than we had in the full month.
Exactly. 8 days in. So, yeah. I mean, we have a great report for next month, but just letting you know, that's the effects of this taking place.
Well, so you're looking at the revenue, and it doesn't show all the numbers because we kind of back out cleaning and stuff like that. But the month of February total revenue, including cleaning and everything, was about $70,000. And I looked through and had a conversation with Clint yesterday, Joey. He said he feels like the month of March we're going to be at 90,000, just to give you an idea. So
that's amazing.
But looking at kind of top line revenue here for Wake Up in Birmingham, taking out cleaning, we had about 45,000 of total income. Expenses just under 40,000. So our net was just right under 6,000 a month, which is better than what we experienced in January. We were really at a break-even point in January, so we got a little cash flow in our pocket. But this is something that I still think, as obviously is seasonal, but the 8 or 9 months during the warm months, far exceed our low months that happen in December, January, and February.
That's right. Now let's back up a second. We didn't cover the land business. So those of you who know thelandgeek.com, you can do the land business yourself, right? You can go and buy raw land at a discount. They teach you how to buy it at really rock bottom, 25 cents on the dollar type of prices. Turn around and sell it on the retail market through various places like landmodo.com, Facebook, and various other places, Craigslist and otherwise, and turn around and make that purchase on the retail market as a monthly payment back to you. So your owner financing the land back to you, not too dissimilar to what Russ was mentioning, Mitch Stephen does with houses. This is just with raw land. And we have chosen to hire a team to do this for us. And that's another thing within our passive income mastermind that you have access to is the Fast Pass to get the done for you model set up for you. Mark Podolsky and his team will do that. This month alone, our land business created over $20,000 in passive income. That's the gross amount. After all expenses paid, we netted $14,045.82. And how much time did you spend working in that business, Russ?
Last month?
Any month.
I don't even know how to get in the dashboard, man. I was trying to share. Somebody was saying, "Hey, Russ, how's that done for you land business going?" I was like, "It's going amazing." They're like, "Tell me about it." I was like, "It's going amazing." What else do you want to know? It's going amazing. It's like amazing. That's my favorite word. And I'm going to say it now 5 times. They're like, "Well, can you show me the stuff?" I said, "Well, here's what I can do. I can tell you how much money we've put in, when we put it in, how much cash flow we have coming a month, how much overall value we have as compared to it, which is about 4 times what we put into it, overall value. But if you want me to show you how to log into the thing, you're going to have to call Joey because he's the only one that knows how to get into the deal."
I was about to say, if you had to report the amount of time in the business, it would be a little bit misleading because the hours it's taking you to try to log into this is it's just not realistic. Like
I've spent way more time trying to figure out how to log into that dashboard because I keep losing the username and password than I have ever doing anything with the business. But that's why this is very passive, right? Many of you who are listening to this, you're getting involved in the land business. It's more of a side hustle. It's something that you're working, you're building, you're creating in order to get to a point where you can then hand it off to people to run it for you. And I love that. I think that that's an amazing thing. That's what your daughter, Joey, I know that is happening really in the month of March, but I want to talk about this because I've sat on a few calls as you and your daughter have been selling properties that she bought. And by the way, this is the cool thing. Most people are like, how do you buy land, right? Most of the time you have to you mail people, you try to get them to sell it to you, or you go out and buy properties from people who have already purchased them, who are land sellers like us, and that's called wholesale. But your daughter did something even more unique. Your daughter has created a really interesting way to buy land and then turn around and sell it. Talk a little bit about the land arbitrage model and what she's doing.
You going to steal her episode? I mean, we got to have an episode on this.
Well, I mean, we need to have her on, no doubt. But I mean, let's just go ahead and tease it. Talk to me about what land arb is.
So what she did is she went out and was working with her coach, and she has some capital built up in her infinite banking policies that we've set up for her, and she was ready to just buy the properties outright. And her coach said, "Well, what about land arbitrage?" She said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, we have different people that wholesale their land on payments to you rather than in full." Okay. So she was able to purchase 2 properties that were $9,800 in total value for 40 acres total, 20 acres apiece, for the total of $200 a month. So she's financing it from someone else, paying the $200 a month, and then being able to turn around and then finance it to somebody else and get the difference. So the very first person that she's talked to, and we're still waiting on him to make the payment. So it is not a done deal, but the first person that she's talked to about selling this property will pay $300 a month for one of those parcels.
For how many months?
For 80 months. And she owes this other seller the $200 a month for 60 months.
So let's break down what Joey's saying. Her out-of-pocket cost to purchase 40 acres is $200 a month.
That's right. I think there was a $100 down payment too, but
she's broken those two things up into two separate parcels, and she's selling them on terms to somebody for $300 a month for half. So she's going to make $100 a month for the next 80 months with nothing in the deal at that point, right?
That's right.
And then she's going to market the second piece of property, and whatever she gets on it, she gets another $300 a month. That $300 a month goes in her pocket, no expense.
That's right.
This is like when people say you have to have money in order to make money. That is a straight lie.
Exactly.
You have to have money is one of four, or in our case, as we went through our podcast on this, one of five things that you can have. You don't have to have them all. Money is one thing that you can have, and she had it. But what her coach gave her is education. He said, right. let me share with you a way to purchase this smartly in a way that you can then not have to put up as much money, because that's really the name of the game. This isn't about being debt-free. People get so hung up in what Dave Ramsey teaches, and they want to have everything 100% paid off. And by the way, there's some things you want 100% paid off, but there's some things that it is dumb. In my opinion, it is dumb to pay things off. Like, why would I mean, every month my mortgage company sends me the principal, how much I owe on my house. And then I get this other statement in the mail that tells me how much I owe on the equity line on the house. And then I got another line of credit that tells me how much I owe on then. And I love the fact if I add all three of them up, they barely equal the value, depending on the day of the week, right?
Exactly.
I'm perfectly satisfied, right? Like, here's the thing. At the end of the day, if they want my house, but I'll just take all the little furnishings and I'll move to the next place, because it ain't about that. I got the cash flow, and I know I got $0 in this house doing zero. I got it all out there creating cash flow. So your daughter is learning a strategy at 15 that most people don't know at 50.
This podcast is amazing, almost too amazing, Russ. There's too many ideas, and I don't know where to get started creating passive income.
Well, here's the thing, Joey. I think one of the things you need to consider in that statement is, what is it costing you to not know? What is it costing you not to take action? I love the statement that says you don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great.
If you're struggling on where to start, you have to know what type of investor you are. Know your investor DNA. And if you want to learn more about this, you can join us in our Passport Challenge at wealth.wallstreet.com/passport. Get started today.
100%. And it gets me fired up, to be honest. Our passive income mastermind is all about seeking that 200% number. And one of the things that is behind that for me is the ability to hand down the knowledge to my girls that they can create the financial freedom for their family and exceed their dad by 20 years. Right? That is the power of being in a group like this mastermind, is exposure, resources, connections, people that we can all kind of learn together, and then collectively be able to hand that down to the next generation and those beyond. That's the freedom of my time I want to be able to spend with her and with my other daughters. And so anyway, that's what's behind it for me.
You're teaching her how to be a good investor.
That's right.
And I think so few people know how to be a good investor. We say this all the time, just repeating Robert Kiyosaki's quote: there's no good or bad investments. There's only good or bad investors. And I was listening to Kiyosaki the other day. He said, he was talking about the four commodities or the four precious metals that you should have. And I was like, 4? He's like, yeah, gold, silver, guns, and ammo. But you need to understand like how things work and once you understand that, it reveals so many opportunities to you. The way that we're using our short-term rental business, we're not buying these properties, right? We're just going in and renting them. We're doing arbitrage. Your daughter's now doing that with the land flipping business, where she's not buying the property, she's just doing arbitrage. I think that's amazing. That's a great way to do that. Now, we have other spaces. You were talking about Bob and the things that he's been able to help us do in the crypto space. We're still mining Ethereum, and we've got a new operation that's getting kicked off. We got some stuff in the email the other day, Joey. I don't know if you looked through it, but it's showing us our Bitcoin mining operation that's going to get kicked off here in June, July. Super excited for that to happen. I know that, I don't know which one's going to be the one that goes to the moon, if it's Bitcoin or Ethereum. I know both of them are based on technology that are being used and applied in so many different ways that my mind can't even comprehend. But a part of that is just a currency that we get a little small piece of each and every time we do a transaction. And last month, we produced, almost $9,000 in our rewards, if you will, for doing that. Now, there was a cost to doing business that was a little over $3,000. So we netted almost $6,500 in our businesses to do the crypto mining. And I'm going to ask you that question. How much time did you spend mining Ethereum last month, Joe?
0.0%.
I mean, you spend more time looking up how much money you made than you spent doing anything else. That's it.
That's right. It's totally hands off. And again, to me, it's a slow and steady way to continuously build an additional currency that I believe will be super, super valuable the longer we go. And every day, don't miss last week's podcast on inflation. I know you weren't there personally, Russ, but you're going to want to listen in on that, because we hammer the fact that our dollars are more than worthless every day and continue to get worse. And this every time I look at this report and I see this number continuing to add to last month and the month before and the month before, it gives me a lot more peace of mind to know that we've got additional currency being built somewhere else. So much more secure.
You think about the fact that, Ethereum was, $500 or something like that a coin in 2020. That's and right. Now we sit here looking at it. It was just right under 3,000 a coin as we were doing this report. We got to find things that can keep up with the expansion of the money supply, right? When we see gas prices at $4, you better have something. You better not have dollars just sitting in a checking account. You better have dollars at work. Hence the reason why we use infinite banking. We love setting up these cash values so our dollars are constantly at work. And then we leverage those to do other things, like buy machines that mine crypto. And the other side of that is we use it to create machines that spit out dollars, which are called ATM machines, right? And we make money right now on that. I got to be honest with you. The ATM machines right now, I'm a little bit nervous of the future. Have you been listening to this central bank digital currency conversation that's happening out there?
No, I've heard it going on, but I have not researched it detailed wise. I need to spend more time on that for sure.
Well, so for everybody out there, I'm not an expert on this, but you could go research this. It's under CBDC. So it's basically the central bank digital currency. The president of the United States said we need to seriously be looking into this to keep up with other countries who are looking at this, like China, for example, who has come out with the digital yen. Is that
yen?
How do you say that?
Yen?
Yeah, yen. My brain was like between on exactly how that was pronounced, but that is a scary thing to me, right? That for our ATM machines is that if our government goes out with a digital currency, it is not a good thing. So if you're listening to this and we have a chance to vote on this, vote no. We do not want our country to go to a digital currency, because ultimately speaking, that's just a way for them to just throw all of this debt they've created underneath the rug and say, okay, we forget about that. Now we'll just have this digital currency. And how does that play out? Well, yesterday when I went to this little car show and the guy valeted my car and I came back and I gave him a $20 bill. I can't give him a $20 bill anymore. Digital currency means I have to actually give him money that's digital. So that means that money's tracked from that point forward.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no money underneath the table. Well, in some regards, that may be good for our country. And they could say, oh, well, we don't want trafficking of drugs, trafficking of people, whatever it may be. We got to track that stuff. So you'd be like, oh, I'm all for that. We don't, I don't want, illegal things happening. But at the same time, you no longer can get people to come do odd jobs for you without them having to then say, well, I mean, if you pay me this way, you need to pay me 25% more because I've got to pay taxes on it now. That eliminates all the little bitty jobs that happens. Not to mention the really scary stuff, Joey, about this stuff is that they say, you know what, Joey, I heard you were one of those guys who don't like to wear masks on airplanes. And be honest, we want everybody else to be maskers. And so we're just not going to let you want to spend this money at this grocery store? Nah, that just doesn't meet our social crediting system.
Yeah. I didn't want to go down the deep hole there, but I will tell you, there is not a chance I would allow my currency to be tied to the government's decisions of how I should have access or not to.
But the whole point,
scary thing.
The reason I bring this up, though, is the value of Ethereum and Bitcoin is that they are decentralized, right?
That's right.
There is no single person in charge. I love that. I know that there's crypto ATM machines, and maybe if for whatever reason our fiat currency is taken away, I hope it's not. If it does, hopefully we can tweak it and take our ATM machines in order to move them to Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other sort of crypto that's not the CBDC's version.
That's right. So, but to your point, our ATM machine did produce the 2184 this month, just like they did last month and the month before. They're just solid. They're just consistent. And this is kind of an interesting thing to me. We spent dollars one time to purchase these. We got a immediate bonus depreciation on that to reduce our tax burden. And then we get to consistently get a fee off of that every single month in equal to the same amount. Now, the people that are going to those ATMs to get the dollars out could be paying an increasing fee based on inflation, but it won't affect it. So it could actually increase
our return.
Did you think about that?
I had thought about that, but yeah, we need to message our guy about that and say, hey, by the way, are you guys increasing your fees to account for many things? I mean, obviously the rent that we could potentially pay in the future where these ATM machines are stored could go up. I think all of that stuff is
contracted in.
Yeah, I think we're locked in there. But to be honest, the people who don't have those locked in or are renewing it, they're going to have to increase their fee. So if I go to an ATM over here and it's $2 and I go to one over here, it's $4, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to try to go to this $2 one. But if the $2 one increases to $4, I'm just going to be like, well, that's just what's happening. I have no other option. And if everybody ends up raising their prices, we win if we have a locked in already contractual rent price.
That's right.
I guarantee you those guys are thinking about it. These are smart people. All right. So there's a lot of other things on this list, but I want to talk about, as we're wrapping up here, something I want to share. I've spent a lot of money over the last year and a half with attorneys learning better ways to organize my finances, to structure things so that I can pass it down. And I haven't even had a chance to share this with you. So I thought I'd do this live. You good with this?
Hey, I'm always open for good surprises.
So here's one of the things that the attorney pointed out to me, which, again, I'm talking to Joey. Please don't take this as legal advice for yourself. You need to go talk to your own people. So we have several things on here, Joey, that are purely passive, hands off. We don't deal with.
That's right.
But the community, right? I would call that an active business, even though we don't do a ton for it, but we created the courses. That would be considered active revenue. We're involved in that business. The Wake Up in Birmingham, even though you and I don't spend tons of time in that business, it's still going to be considered active income for us. Those two things, we need to restructure how we're flowing that thing through, because right now we're flowing it through to a partnership. And so we're going to have to pay not W-2 income, but active income tax rates on that money. So our attorney was telling me, and because you couldn't be on that call, is that you and I need to consider moving the flow of that income out of that entity and moving it toward our S corps, so that we could get some of the S corp deductions and distributions, so we could pay ourselves a salary and then take the rest in distributions, which would help reduce our taxes on that.
Smart.
I like it. I was like, oh man, I had not even considered that. So all the other things that are passive, it's fine for us the way we have it set up. But for that's one of the things. So that's just you and me talking about. I feel like, anytime I'm learning something, I want to share it with you as you're listening, because you may not have all these things right now, but you ought to always consider, one, how you protect things, but secondly, how do you avoid paying tax on stuff? Because at the end of the day, it's how much you have left over. This is why, Joey, in our passive income mastermind, we one of the 3 pillars is on tax strategies, because we have to find ways to keep more of the dollars that we have.
That's right. So just to wrap things up real quick, if you're not viewing this live on Facebook or YouTube with us, or even watching it after the fact, the total amount of revenue we brought in from all businesses, that's land, short-term rentals, Ethereum miners, ATMs, multifamily syndication, a long-term rental, the RV that we rent out, our community space, the private note fund, stackcandles.com, go check that out, and our 100 unicorns, which is on life support as we speak, is $100,408.27. We had $67,000 in expenses, so a net of $33,240 for the month. Not a terrible month. It is definitely lower than the hottest parts of the year, but we'll take it, and we'll continue to grow and look for ways to improve it. So I hope this is inspiring, again, that each one of these things may not be for you, but maybe you find the 1 or 2 that you can go hard after and create the financial freedom that you're looking for. It may not be on the same scale or the same types of things that we are doing, but that's what our community is for, is to help you get to your financial freedom number as soon as possible.
Yeah. Again, if you want to take part and apply to come to the mastermind that we're going to have in Austin in May, just email us at info@wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, put in the subject line passive income retreat, and we'll have our assistant send you the details to see if that'd be a good fit for you.
As always, thank you for listening to this report. And if you found value, please like it, share it, review us so other people can find it. And as always, please join us on the next episode.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.